again. Like, I don't know what happened to Duffy Dyer. I think maybe his wife figured he couldn't handle the technology here. So we were beyond, but
Well, probably with Duffy, we couldn't get his whole head in the screen.
Yeah, yeah. You'd have to get that wide angle shot, Johnny. Have
I'm
him and
just
both.
saying.
Yeah, have him and
I'm not
Bochy on
throwing
the
no
same
shade,
show.
but
You
I'm
got
just
no
saying.
chance, right?
Hey, hey, Gar, I've got a question that I never asked you. When Sal reached out to you and asked you, would you be interested in managing the Brewers? Was there one or two other people that were under consideration?
Actually, as I recall back, I think he did interview anybody, but when he called me, I actually told Sal that I said, Sal, I'm not sure if I'm ready yet to manage, but there's a guy down here in Houston named Matt Galani
Oh
who
yeah.
is
Oh,
ready
wow.
and outstanding, and he would make a wonderful manager, and I think you ought to interview him. Well, he said, why don't you just come up and talk to us? So I went up and I talked to him, and the interview went really well. And I think the interview went so well because I was in my mind, I was thinking, I'm
Nothing to
not
lose.
ready. So I really don't think I can do the job just now. And so when it was over, I asked him a bunch of questions, and I reiterate, I said, Sal, I really think you ought to talk to Matt. And so I go home, and a couple of days later, he calls me and he says, "We'd like to offer you the job." And I said, "Sal, I'm not sure. Have you talked to Matt Galante yet?" And so he says, "No." And so we hang up. 2 days later, he calls me and offers me more money. I wasn't doing this to get a better deal. I mean, I
Sure.
literally thought Matt Galante would make a better manager at that time than I would.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunately for me, they didn't do it because number one, going to Milwaukee was a great move for me. Number two, working with Sal was a great pleasure, and I think had it been somebody else, they might not have been forgiving at some of my mistakes, and so
sure.
Sal was really good, and I actually enjoyed Bud Selig. I mean, Bud was
Yeah.
not the kind of
So did
guy that
I.
interfered. Once or twice a year, he'd come down, he'd sit in the manager's chair and just want to talk. He never really said. The only time we ever kind of had any, and I wouldn't call them ill words. There might have been a little bit disagreement was during the strike when they wanted to have replacement players.
Yeah.
Bud's idea is that if everybody's is the same on the field, competitive wise, then baseball's still good. And I said, no, people know what major league players are all about,
There's
and
a level.
so we disagree. Yeah, we disagreed on that, but a gentleman's disagreement on it, and I hated to have to go through that. And I don't think Bud enjoyed going through that either. Both sides were dug in, and both sides had good reasons to do what they were doing. So I don't think either side was wrong. I disagreed, with the replacement players and all that, but and unfortunately, we had to go through with it. So
Yeah.
um, and some of them were characters. Some of the replacement players that
I
we had were
remember.
characters, but if anything, I felt like when it happened, I actually think the philosophy backfired on the owners because it showed that if anybody out there deserved to be in the big leagues or on a big league team somewhere in the minor leagues even, they were already there. There were no
Yeah.
other guys
Mhm.
that you brought in as replacement guys. Now there were a couple of them that hung on and got to play a little bit, but I didn't see anybody that I said, "Oh wow, he deserves to be on the team."
Sure.
They had flaws that were glaring, and they would have shown up if against a better
Exposed them
competition.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not to berate anybody. It's just you know when you're looking at guys on talent and the skill level, and can they produce at a triple A or a major league level, they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
weren't going to compete with the guys that were in the big leagues.
Yeah. True.